Okay. Hello. It is October 13th, 2023. It's 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm still getting over Skankfest flu. I don't know if I got the vid or just run down or what the story is, but right when I think I'm getting better and I sleep and I feel rested, I get up and I get the sniffles again. And I got something grinding in my car, so I had to take it in for oil change anyways and get something. So there's something loose and rattling under there. I'm no mechanics, but it doesn't sound too good. But I got a 45-minute drive here. I'm heading to a store. I think that's got to be the front strut, and it's crazy because I think I replaced them not even that long ago, but I no longer go to that mechanic, and it's not OEM. Had I gotten Volvo, they would have been for life. But it looks like there's a little bit of play. I checked it out earlier, so hopefully my strut doesn't break and go through my the hood of my car during my journey here. So I wanted to open your minds a little bit this morning, pry them open, jam a crowbar in there and just pull your mind open. When you see the world around you and what's going on and why that stuff is there, from social contagion, from social elements like feminism or LGBTQ community, down to the products that we purchase, why they're there, and flip some things for you, flip the script for you a little bit. So I'm not going to go all anti-capitalistic, why do you need more than 2 deodorants? But I do want you to think about some things here. So the current system that we have is very distorted because the incentives have been twisted, to say the least, based on the ability to trick and make a bunch of people believe that the Federal Reserve money is an actual currency that holds value. So let's start with what actual organic, spontaneous, voluntary currency is. Basically, if you think about capitalism as calories, meaning you eat food, you get calories to burn, you invest that capital in going out to get more calories, and the idea is the amount of calories that you eat, that you expend, is less than the calories you can gather. And then if you gather more calories than you personally need, and somebody else needs calories but they have something else, you could trade that to them. And then when you need to trade something to somebody that you don't need, so for instance, if you have banana, and somebody else has apples, you might have one banana for one apple to trade, and you say that that's a fair deal. But they might say, well, an apple is worth 2 bananas, so you give them 2 bananas for an apple, but they don't want 2 bananas right now to eat. So they can come up with a placeholder, and in the past it was shells, it was gold, silver, platinum, copper, precious gems, whatever it may be. It's something else with perceived value that normally can be weighed, so it's something objective that can be measured objectively, that organically changes, that the individual that's trading for it perceives it as equal or better value than what they have. So as this goes on and you have more and more of this precious item, it becomes a little bit nerve-wracking to hold, because people with malicious intentions may try to either murder you or kill you or steal that value from you that they didn't own, essentially making you a slave because you worked for them for free, because they took the money, didn't add any value to society, and took it away. They took that value out of society to themselves that you created. Now, when they re-spend it, it goes back in, but they didn't do anything for their fellow human to get the resources that they didn't spend those tokens on. So some people said, well, we'll hold them for you in a safe area, and we'll protect them for a percentage. And then you can give people IOUs. So you say, okay, here's a check. I owe you 100 units, and you can go collect it from this institution here where they hold it for safety reasons. And then as that happened more and more, and people kind of lost track of the value, more benevolent people came in and they took advantage of this system. And one day they just removed the value from the IOUs and started handing out these IOUs and printing these IOUs. And now there's no value to it, but every time they print it, since it's the IOUs that are getting handed around, they're actually stealing from everybody that put the value into there by saying that this IOU has worth to it when it doesn't. And that is what we currently call inflation. It's theft from all the workers that actually added value from a monetary system that's backed by coercion. So if you don't use this particular currency as your main currency, or if you make extra of it, they call it counterfeit. But when they make extra counterfeiting, it's called quantitative easing. They're magic words, or fractional banking. When they print money, it's not counterfeit for them. So anyways, you get out into this system where they want you to continue farming these fake currencies for them and handing it out. So at one point, when it was still backed by gold and it still held a value, and there was a merit-based society where the more value you put into society, more you got out, because they weren't printing to hand this out to either cohorts at the bottom that were protecting it or cohorts at the top that were protecting it. The idea of, let's say, feminism. Let's just start with feminism. And take a deep breath here, because you're going to get emotionally, if you're heavily invested in feminism, one way or another, either negatively or positively, you might get an emotional chemical rush from this, and you want to try to break free. If you're heading in the wrong direction in life, you don't want to just be stubborn and emotionally dig in and keep heading in the wrong direction. So if you're heading from, New York City to Florida, and you find out that after an hour of travel you've been going north towards Maine, you don't want to stubbornly continuously going north towards Maine to prove a point and never reach your destination of Florida. So if you have men working and creating value for society, and then every time they create value for society, you get a little piece of this, and you call it taxes. And they're beholden to the government to pay that little pieces of taxes. But they have a voluntary arrangement between their wife and their children, who currently doesn't work for system and pay taxes, works for it within them, and you say to the women, hey, instead of staying home and taking care of your family and your children, we want a bit of your labor and we can't get it because you're giving it to your husband and your children and your community voluntarily. Can you give us a piece of your labor? Then they would say, no, we're not going to do that. We earn this. This is our labor. We're not going to give you a piece. You've tricked the men, but you're not tricking the women. But if you twist it around and say the men aren't oppressed, the men that are working for the families and giving a piece of their money to the government, they're not oppressed. The woman is oppressed because she can't work. We need to get her a job. And when she has a job, she'll be free. So then she starts working for a job, and now the government gets a little piece of the action from her. And then she's no longer raising her kids, so she hires a nanny. And the government gets another little piece of the action. So now, what was sold to the woman as freedom is really her husband and a nanny now, all paying a portion of what they earn to the government. Kind of like, it's spreading out, diversifying the slavery, if you will. So you're all government's little bitch now in this little scenario here. Now, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be able to work freely and come up with voluntary arrangements. What I'm saying is, when you look at this social thing called feminism, realize the roots of it wasn't benevolent leaders worrying about women. They were benevolent individuals that were trying to get more money from the little farm of humans' chattel that they have. So next, let's walk you into your CVS, right? You're working 40 plus hours a week and you get sick. So you go into your CVS and they sell you what claims to be a cure for this. And it's a short-term cure. If you have a headache, they don't say, oh, maybe you're overworked, or maybe you're tired, or maybe the food that we're giving, forcing on the chattel, is making them sick and giving them a headache. They say, well, we just need to get them back to work as soon as possible. How can we get back in the office? Well, we have aspirin, we have Tylenol, we have Advil. What are the long-term effects? We're not worried about the long-term effects. We need to milk them for some more taxes. They're sick right now. How can we get them back or keep them working? They don't even go home. And so, in this particular situation, they give you a temporary cure for an ailment, where if you were in more of a natural order, where you weren't on a farm, on a plantation, working for these groups, you would work into your community and say, oh, you have a headache, maybe you're dehydrated, or you have a headache, maybe you're not eating properly, we got to get you better food. But their idea is not to make you healthy. The idea of those quote unquote solutions that you have that are limited within what they approve. The Federal Drug Administration approves certain things and doesn't approve other things. They approve those and say, okay, you can give this to your workers to get them back to work so that we can collect more taxes from them. It's not about health. It's not about prevention. It's not about you being better. It's about getting, if your cow is sick, then you make a decision. Do you kill the cow, or do you think you can get more from it if you give it a drug or something? And the long-term health of that cow is based on how much more taxes you can get from it, how much more resources that cow can get you, how much more milk you can squeeze from the teats of that cow. It has nothing to do with the cow's health, well-being, or happiness, or the pursuit thereof. Shaving, for example. Now, I'm not suggesting that everybody should grow a beard, but one of the reasons that most people shave, or were taught to shave, and now it's become a social norm. Like, women say a clean-shaven man is a healthy man, but really what they're saying is a clean-shaven man had a good job. And the reason that razors were instituted in the army in the first place to shave was when you were working hard and you had a beard, it would get sweaty and itchy and dirty, and if they could clean you up, they could get more work out of you. Morale would go higher. So when you see, and not everybody, but when you see somebody that's clean shaven, in many cases, unbeknownst even to them, it's an individual that's working at a high intensity, that's making a lot of income. And that income is directly proportionate to their health, well-being, and comfort. And so when they were doing manual labor, if you could keep somebody clean-shaven, then it meant you could get more resources out of them because they weren't itchy, scratchy, getting boils, pimples, and sicknesses. So you were keeping them at bay and healthy. So the origins of these things, and I know I'm starting to sound crazy to a lot of people, because everything's a big conspiracy theory. But these things have stuck around. They've been woven into society now. But when they originally birthed into society, before they were woven into the DNA patterns based on attraction metrics, meaning that women now, for the most part, look at a clean-shaven man as somebody that has an office job that makes good money. It's starting to change because they're starting to see that the visionaries, the outliers, have the freedom to live a life that's bearded or unbearded of their choice. So somebody with a good, healthy, clean beard may be poor, may be homeless, may be broke, maybe can't shave, maybe might not be doing well, or maybe be in a position that they're financially secure enough that they don't have to say okay to the norms. They can be outside of the norms and still support themselves and their family and what have you. Now, in the midst of all this, you're also going to have religious doctrine and tradition and stuff from some other cultures now that we move into more of a globalistic but monolithic culture with diversity spread in through religion and multiple traditions. But the one thing that I just want you to focus on in this scenario is that tax chattel were working, they were irritated, their morale was low. It started with soldiers. If you shaved a soldier and they didn't have a beard when they were fighting, they could fight longer, harder, sleep better, be less itchy, collect less bugs, lice, disease, and sicknesses. It had nothing to do with worrying about the happiness of that person or that person necessarily wanting to shave. They were put into a dangerous situation where that was an obstacle that had to be overcome. And instead of preventing war, they cured the low morale by offering shaving. And we've carried it forward. Now, there's other benefits to it in other ways, but I'm not totally against women making a personal and independent choice of whether or not they want to shave to show their femininity versus men not wanting to shave to show their masculinity. I will say that men tend to find a female that is younger. It sparks fertility. Fertility sparks being able to have children, to hand on a lineage, to most likely less baggage, less emotional damage and trauma. So there is something to be said for when women shave their legs and their arms and stuff, they remove the hair, that they are trying to make themselves look and appear younger to the opposite gender, in order to hold on, I gotta switch lanes here real quick, in order to appear younger and more fertile to crap, I was supposed to take that exit. I guess I'm going to Nashua, not Milford anymore. So when you start looking at the world like this, it gets a little bit better. So now you're not growing your own food. You're not hunting your own meats. You're not preparing your own foods. So you go into a grocery store and everything's filled with chemicals and preservatives and stuff. This is not to necessarily feed you. This is to feed you quickly and to control the food so they can orchestrate it in the manner that they want. So for example, you're making a decision. You don't want to farm. It's difficult, it's hard, it's weather-based, it's location-based. So you outsource your farming to other individuals. But as you do that, you not only give up the ability of the food and the process of the food, but then what you can consume. So whereas you might grow apples in your backyard with no chemicals in natural soil and eat them, the idea to keep you fed is not to keep you healthy and to give you good food. The idea to keep you fed is that you got to keep producing taxes. So you're going to get an apple in the easiest, most mass-produced sense of the word apple. It's going to be genetically modified. It's going to be engineered. It's going to be sprayed with chemicals. It's going to be ripened in a particular manner that may not be on the vine. It's not about giving you healthy, good food that gives you the nutrients of an apple that you once knew that you could grow in your backyard. It's about giving you the emotional experience of an apple from the store, so that when you say, I want an apple, and you get an apple, you eat that apple, and then you go back to earning taxes in a quick manner. So they want to get that to you in the quickest, fastest possible way, where they can mass produce it and give it in the quickest, fastest possible way to as many people as possible, and control the elements of it so that that continues to happen. Now, there'll be shortages within this thing, but for the most part, the system is, it's good at producing the idea of an apple, and always will be, but it will never be able to produce an actual apple in its essence in such large quantities that there won't be a shortage. So when you go to a supermarket, they begin categorizing the apples in particular manners, meaning if you want an actual apple, it's really expensive. And here's one, because we can only mass produce so many actual apples, and it's called like a chemical-free, non-GMO, organic, heirloom apple. And then even that name changes over time, and they start, because they can't even do it, and they add chemicals and stuff. So when you're seeing so when you're walking into a grocery store, if you can start actually seeing what you're looking at, you're looking at a shadow of what used to be, but is still called by the same name. But is not the rose by any other name still a rose? Is not an apple by any other names still tastes as sweet and as juicy as an apple? So we have an idea of an apple being a somewhat round object, either green, yellow, red, or some mixture in between of those things that has a particular taste to it. But that has become engineered, designed, and transformed over the years so that you're not actually ever really eating an apple. When you're eating an apple is when you're at a friend's house and they have an apple tree in the backyard, or when you go to a local orchard and you pick apples. You're eating what's closer to an apple. It's still been modified to a point that it lives and it's evolved and it's adapted for the climate of your area. And it still holds the essence of an apple. It's not soft-skinned or purple or black with red polka dots, so you still see it as an apple. It's still within the major mental concept of an apple. But the idea, the original nutrients, the original taste, flavors, fiber, and everything of the apple has been modified to expand that outward to make it the easiest form of that particular fruit to give to you. This is happening with bananas, lettuce, wheat products, to the point where you can see, if you go to different countries and you do a molecular breakdown of wheat that's grown in the United States versus wheat that's grown in Europe versus wheat that's grown in Russia, they're all called wheat. And if you look at the breakdown of the vitamins and the nutrients and fibers and gluten contents of these different plants that are all called wheat conceptually and have a stem and have a stalk and have seeds and can be milled into a flour, but they're not the name is not precise anymore. It's a very loose term to describe the concept of this particular grain that we see. And within a system where the people that are at the top that call themselves elites or elected officials or government officials or these corporate entities, what they're trying to do is give you the concept and emotional feeling of what you're asking for as soon as possible so you can shut the fuck up, get back to work, and grind them some more taxes. And I know that the communist is going to say, so you can be enslaved and work to the corporation. The corporation is just a piece of paper where a government agent with guns wrote down special privileges for this group of people. They can privatize profits and socialize losses. So it's just another government entity. The gun in the room is very important. The non-voluntary nature is very important. So I don't want you to completely lose your mind and flip out when you go and your mind's blown and you can't even live anymore. But next time you go to a store or whatever, trace back the roots of the existence of that product and why. So another example, we'll just do Bernie Sanders' favorite deodorant. I don't know, I can't do a Bernie Sanders. Maybe he speaks like a Jew guy. I don't know. Whatever Bernie Sanders sounds like, but he said one time, why do you need all these different types of deodorants? Just one will be fine. And I would say to you, why do we need deodorant at all? So if you're clean, healthy, eating correctly, in a safe, healthy environment where hygiene is important to you. I haven't worn deodorant in decades. I don't even use really that much soap when I shower. Maybe once a week I'll do some soap. I have natural microbes on my body now. My skin is becoming healthier, and I'm eating properly and exuding and excreting the proper natural essence, oils, and chemicals that your body should be if when you eat properly and healthy and exercise and hydrate. And if you're practicing proper hygiene daily, which is just rinsing the dirt off and stuff and eating properly and hydrating properly, even in close proximity to other individuals, you shouldn't have enough time that you're, one, smelling like chemicals, two, having microbes eat the waste that you're giving off, and then when they eat that waste that you're giving off, give off gases that you smell. So yeah, my laundry, after it sits there for a week, once some bacteria starts eating it and gives off gases, it'll stink. It'll begin to smell. But I don't smell necessarily bad. Now maybe in your mindset, I would smell like a dirty hippie. But it's because over time, people with bad pheromones, I've tricked you. You don't even know what somebody with an attractive pheromones smells like. So people that are walking around and they say, I need perfume because they smell bad, or people tell me I smell bad. It's like, well, you're not eating right. You're not healthy. You're not drinking right. And there's been studies on this, so I'm going a little bit of a rave here, but women will find themselves breaking up with their boyfriends after they get off the pill, and their natural chemicals go back and they start smelling their boyfriend's chemicals and natural pheromones. It's literally chemistry, smelling the chemicals that you interact with one another in a natural way. When you're both healthy, sexually healthy, eating right, hydrating right, getting your vitamins, minerals, and nutrients in a proper manner, there's an attraction that you naturally have instinctually through animals where you know that your DNAs will be a good match. And there's plenty of reasons to hide this. If you have bad DNA and you want to trick the opposite sex into thinking you have better DNA, you can do plastic surgery, perfumes, makeups, clothing. There's all sorts of ways to trick people into making babies with you when they shouldn't. But again, I want you to realize that, ask yourself this: when you're hanging around people of your house that have similar DNAs, or your husband and your girlfriend or something, when you're not at work, when you're not around strangers, when you're around your kids, right? Are you worried about each other's smells, or are you having a good time? You're picking one another up. You're hugging one another. If you do smell something because they've been working in the yard all day, you kind of laugh about it and then just say, go take a shower, we have dinner or whatever. The idea of these chemicals that you put on your body, whether it's deodorant, perfumes, fancy soaps that are more chemicals, that are washing away your natural oils and natural flora that your body creates on your body, is so that you can be jammed into a cubicle in a 9 to 5 and then into a lunch table and work in close proximity with one another to make more money to support the government taxing you like chattel. It's no different than when they give antibiotics to chickens, or they give antibiotics to cows, or they inject them with chemicals of different sorts, except that they give you the illusion that you can pick your own chemicals and your own stuff that you like, and you smell all fancy. Oh, aren't I the greatest smelling slave out there? So they give you this illusion that you need these products in order to live within their world, and you're going to try these different fancy foods with these different chemicals, and all they're doing is tricking you to keep you going in the next day, to live within their structured setup, I guess you could call it, of a society. Now, sorry, I gotta looking for directions here, just looking for a sign to see where I am. I'm going to Nashua, New Hampshire real quick. So after I break this stuff down here, and you can do it in multiple facets of your life, you can just start looking around and look at the root reason that most of what they're giving you. And the pharmaceuticals and the drugs and the chemicals are the biggest ones. They're not healing stuff. They're pretty much putting casts on you and telling you, take this, get back to work. Take this, get back to work. How can we get you back to work as soon as possible? In a true healthy society, you would nurse somebody back to health naturally, healthy, good food, good spirits, hydration, rest, health. You wouldn't be rushed back. And the counterpoint, though, I want to make sure of is they have a lot of people, I want a month of maternity leave and everybody should pay for it. Well, that's not how it works either, because now you're just asking them to steal for you because you want a month off. You need to set up and plan your life in a manner where you and your husband, when you have a baby, you can take a month off because you're not a slave to the government or the government system or the incomes. I would suggest, whether you're communistic in mindset, libertarian in mindset, Republican, whatever it is, that you start looking at your life, you start looking at where you spend your money, and start recognizing that you're supporting and living your life in a manner to be good little chattel, good little pigs and cows and sheep on this animal farm that's being run by these government elites. And the more that you keep buying into the system, the bigger they get. Without your help, they'll have to change in some sort of direction. I need to turn around. I just entered Massachusetts. I'm in a hellscape, surrounded by the enemy. I must get out of here as soon as possible. Gotta get back to New Hampshire to survive. But think about your life. Think about the way you get food. Think about the stuff that you're purchasing, whether it's clothes. I forgot to even mention propaganda. So when you're turning on, I don't have Netflix. I don't have a television set. I have a TV when I want to watch certain movies or whatever. When you turn in and you watch stuff, the material that you consume, they make more of it. And they'll continue to pump out and print money, and there'll always be a bunch of people that are rah, 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 cheer, 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 that are going to watch this stuff. But you're corrupting your mind in one or another way. So either one, you give into it and wholeheartedly and lean into it and say, yes, this is how society should be. I'm like this. Or two, you give in and say, well, I'm just going to ignore the propaganda so it dulls. But then what happens is when you go out into the world, you just ignore the propaganda and you don't stand up for the negative changes that'll happen because you're so used to them. So if you just remove yourself from that consumption, that mental consumption that you're having, you'll also start having a better experience within the reality of your world. Because what they're also trying to do with the TV and the movies and the television shows and the commercials and the propaganda and everything they're showing, they're training you to be good little workers. They're saying, oh, you're a Muslim and you have to work with somebody that's not Muslim at your job, well, give up your religion because you have to work alongside one another. Now, I'm not saying we should be killing and murdering like people that are not like us, but the idea that you should give up certain like lifelong lineages of things that's working for you to become this gelatinous mindset of government power is crazy. And maybe the Muslim Jewish thing is a little bit like wrong, but I'm saying like if you start watching a movie where they're telling you like, well, the government schools are good, and you're like, okay, we're watching this, I'll just deal with it, yeah, government schools, blah, blah, blah. Then you're never going to get to a mindset where you say, wait, how would we homeschool without the government? How could we take care of the children and teach them in a safest atmosphere and a loving atmosphere without the government? So be careful what you consume mentally and physically and what you put on your body, and remember where it's coming from, and know that at this point in society where we're at, none of it is any longer designed for what the stated thing is, or stated claim. Most of it, if not all of it, and I would say over 90% of it, is designed. I'm back in New Hampshire. I can feel the blood re-entering my bloodstream as I'm surrounded by like-minded individuals, and I'm out of the beast and the demon of Massachusetts. Sorry. As you start surrounding yourself with better ideas and better people and stuff, and become less responsible and start recognizing, and I hate to say like the Matrix, but it's the thing that people know, the stuff that you're buying, seeing, consuming, eating, all that stuff, it's not done to make you healthier, better, happier. It's done to get you to go back to work as soon as possible to make more money for those types of individuals. And I don't think the idea is to quiet quit either. So this is where I really disagree with the commies. The commies are like either beat them or don't do anything and wait out the system and go on welfare. My idea is to be, if the government is such a bad system and the monetary system is so bad, it should be really easy to make it obsolete with counter efforts. One example is, I saw everybody plugged into the war system and they're like, Israel's the best, Hamas sucks. And then other people are like, no, Palestine's the best. And it's like, you know, you got peanut butter in my chocolate. No, you got chocolate. You got Israel in my peanut butter. You got chocolate in my Palestine. It's just all advertising within this weird system. One of the major solutions that I see is that it's all funded by printing money from the Federal Reserve. And yet everybody bitching about these wars are too lazy to go out and learn cryptocurrency and start moving their value that they make into a decentralized currency that's away from the system. And they're like, oh, it's illegal, oh, it's a scam. Learn what it is, take some time, don't start gambling and trying to, and then you make bad decisions with your finances, so the whole system's a sham or a lie. If the Federal Reserve is the problem, and the current best solution and option that we have against the Federal Reserve is decentralized currencies through blockchains, and you really want to do something, if you really cared about war, and it wasn't just something that you're virtue signaling that either you're on one side or the other, or that I'm against all wars. Yes, okay, what are you doing about it? Jacking your dick off and spending more fiat currency on the with the Federal Reserve? Then you don't really give a fuck, okay? I've lost quite a bit of money in cryptocurrency when I started. I'm not going to lie. But I've lost more money in the Federal Reserve that's hyperinflating everything and to taxes, and to the government, and to wars, and to future generations, and to lives being killed by the Federal Reserve printing money. So if you have a solution, it might not be perfect. Start trying to at least live your values in a particular direction. All right? And this won't be for everybody, I can tell you right now. A large portion, and this is going to be hard for some people to hear, most of society wants to follow, they want to be the masses, they want to just be the cool thing and go with the flow. All right? That's how their gene sets have survived. We need those people that are just dumb idiot followers. So the way to counterbalance that is to have more leaders for these idiots to follow. And one way you can do that, if you want, one technique that I use is I just be a dumb, stupid hippie for all the non-deodorant wearing crypto motherfuckers to follow if they want, to get some ideas, to open their mind, to look at their lifestyle. You can, and right today, here's some action you can take. You can go right into your kitchen right now. You can open up your cabinet and you can look and you can start going through after I've talked you some of this and just look at all the bullshit you're buying from bullshit people that don't have your interest in mind, and stop buying that shit. And you can go to a local market and buy some food. Or if you're in a warm area, you can go in the backyard and get rid of some of your grass and start growing some things. You can buy some seeds and grow a peach tree. You can buy some seeds and grow a pear, an apple tree. There's all sorts of things that you can do on your individual level to set up your life in a manner where you're taking steps for future generations to get out of the system, and teach your kids how to get out of the system, and teach your kids' how to get out of the system. This whole setup, once you recognize it's just set up to steal from you, to enslave you. And I'm not talking about just the corporations. The corporations are a government entity. I'm talking about inflation. When people they're ruining the world with inflation and printing money. Oh my God, they're so dumb. If we only had Trump in, he wouldn't be doing this. No, it's not a bug. It's a feature. The Federal Reserve was designed, once it was removed from the gold standard, but even prior to that with fractional banking, it's designed via inflation. It's built into the system to steal from you. And if you want to sit around and get stolen from, continue to get stolen from. But I wouldn't want to be a fucking chump like that. I would try to figure out how I can set up my life where I'm no longer getting stolen from, instead of being a little bitch. So if you're getting bullied every day and you're getting your funds stolen from you, there comes a point where you got to figure it out. You got to stand up and you got to figure out, how am I going to set up my life where I'm not getting stolen from, my family's not getting stolen from, and we're getting our life back. And I'm not gonna play this game the way they want me to play the game. I'm gonna play the game where it has my best interest, my friend's best interest, my family's best interest, and the people that I trust and care about that are giving me direction in the world's best interest. And I'm at my destination, so I think that's about all I got to say about that. I know I go on a little bit of rambles and some rants on this stuff, but all in all, I look out into the world, I recognize that most people are just trying to survive and they don't know any better. And if somebody comes over to them and offers them a handout and they're in a tough situation that they don't know how to get out of and they're not smart enough to figure it out, they're going to take that handout. And those people are going to be abused the hardest from the people that's claiming trying to help them. And unfortunately, when things get worse and worse, those are the first people that are going to feel it the worst. So I would have some sympathy for them within this system, because all in all, when you look at the large picture, we are creatures trying to survive on a day-to-day basis. And there's other creatures that kind of figured that out. And so they exploit those animalistic instincts to survive, which I wouldn't exactly call benevolent, let's just say. So, all right. I don't know. This video has been going on almost an hour. I think that's plenty of time. I'm at my destination. So thank you all for listening. Please comment and share below. I'm going to upload this within, I don't know. I got like 50 videos I haven't uploaded that I'm transcribing, making titles for, putting metadata in the background, clearing up the audio. I found some AI that'll clear up the background noise and stuff. And then I'm going to slowly start posting these on a couple of different sites, including a blog, and hopefully that they get some traction. So I love the ones that I love, and the rest of you can go suck it.